Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, as we get things started, I wanted to put July 2019 in perspective. So I've included over here on the right 18, 17, 16, and 15 July temperature anomalies. And I encourage you to pause the video here and take a closer look if you want to, and I hope you're playing this in full screen. But what's interesting for me to see here is that 2018, 2017, 15, 16, they've all featured more heat outside of the Corn Belt than we did see in July of 2019. And mainly a lot of this heat came in with just 1 week of extreme temperatures. Something else interesting to notice is that the West Coast, for the first time in a while, has had a cooler bias in this stretch. Notice 18 was warm, 17 was warm. It was back in 2016, the last time we had, decently cool July for parts of the Pacific Northwest. So a lot different pattern we've seen in 2019 compared to the past 4 years. But I also want to show you this, and feel free to pause it on this next slide too, just to show you a couple of years that were far from normal, 2014 and 2012. You can see vast differences here across the United States in terms of where the big ridges were in 2012 and where they were in 2014. That was a big change from the mid part of the country to the western part of the country. So this is all just for perspective. And here's one other piece that I want to show you. I included this in the long-range update yesterday, but I want to make sure that more of you get to see this. Scott Irwin, a professor at the University of Illinois and a colleague of mine, was discussing precipitation in the month of July. And he specifically focused on the Corn Belt and throughout a number, 4 inches. Turns out you get about 4 inches of rainfall or more during the month of July. We tend to do quite well in our corn yields. Now what's interesting about this is I've got the total accumulated precipitation for the month of July on the left, and you can see where the Corn Belt is on the right. I'm going to get rid of everything that was below 4 inches. So now I've made everything below 4 inches white. And what's important to see here is that there's large sections of the Corn Belt that have missed out on a lot of the rain recently. I mean, look at that part of Iowa, look at the part of Illinois and Indiana, Michigan, where we've missed out on it. Now, we just recently brought some heavier rain right into western Iowa, but north of that and through here, a lot of very heavy rainfall. So notice how quickly, once we get above that 4-inch mark, you also start to see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 inches as well. So while some people can't buy a decent rain shower in the Corn Belt, we have other places in South Dakota, western Nebraska, getting into southern Minnesota and Wisconsin that have had way, way, way too much. In addition to that, you can see the effects of Hurricane Barry moving here through parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley, getting into the Mid-South, and then heavier rainfall recently here in parts of the northeastern part of the United States, soaking folks there as well. So let's take a look at what we got over the last 48 hours. As the front draped in through this area, as that low pressure system moved out of eastern Canada, we had over 150 reports of strong winds, but some very heavy local rainfall, including some flooding down in Louisiana. Meanwhile, here, our upper level ridge still bringing in that monsoonal moisture. We focused a lot of rainfall on a narrow corridor in western Iowa, parts of Missouri, but getting into Oklahoma, getting into parts of Kansas and Nebraska and into South Dakota as well. Some nasty storms here in parts of Colorado moving up into the high plains here in Montana. But I wanted to show you this first because as we take a look at where we're going in the next 5 days, we see a lot of very similar things. Canadian storm track, ridge sitting here, flow around it, soaking this corridor, which is a little bit west of what we saw over the last 48 hours. Widely scattered showers and thunderstorms here over the southeast. Front draping through parts of the north central plains, bringing some widely scattered storms, but there's a big corridor right in through here that is looking very dry as I take you all the way out to next Tuesday, which is what you're looking at on this particular map. Our tropical storm track is like this, and I think we should talk about that next. So the National Hurricane Center has upgraded this particular region down here to a 70% chance of tropical depression development in the coming days. So by day 5, we should be seeing the circulation of these systems getting, getting over here to the Lesser Antilles. Meanwhile, the first kind of weaker, broader circulation that was moving over parts of Cuba early this morning is expected to kind of hug the East Coast. This is not a hurricane, low probability of development, but bringing widely scattered showers and storms to the southeast and Florida as it does so. Just to kind of show you where this is going, we've got a pretty consistent story here from our models. Broader, higher atmospheric pressure in the low levels of the atmosphere, helping to steer these systems away from the United States. Combine that with general troughing I'm expecting to see over the next 5 to 10 days in the East Coast. That is again going to help move these systems away from the United States. What are we seeing here in terms of the probability of developing a tropical depression between the next 4 to 7 days? Right in theory, it's relatively high. But it looks right now as though conditions are going to be less than favorable as this system progresses toward the United States. And again, we're hoping for it to kind of recurve here to the north and miss the United States entirely. Beyond 7 days, it's very difficult to forecast the potential strength of one of these systems. So we're just looking out here to see where the best model support is for development. And we're going to keep a closer eye on this particular system as it moves toward the Lesser Antilles in the coming days here. By the time we get out to the 5th of August here, there's a couple of important things. First of all, that tropical system will be about right here at that time. And we don't see it in the upper level flow of the atmosphere because it's mainly a low level circulation. But there's a few bigger features to talk about. We still have our ridge in this area. We can see there's a very weak flow coming through Canada like this. And we still have our high over low pattern sitting out here in the open Pacific, which has very, very weak and disorganized flow at this point. Also, broader trough sitting in here, that's going to be an important point for what's going to happen with that tropical system and with our temperatures. So with that as the backdrop, let's dig on into this, okay? Over the next 15 days, we do see our European ensemble featuring wetter than average pattern in through here. That's the Canadian storm track. The ridge setting up in this area, bringing the ridge riders over the top, and the tropical cyclone track in through here. But what I'm trying to focus on is right in through this area where we see drier than average conditions, as well as down here along the Gulf Coast where we see drier than average conditions. And the question is, will we be seeing this consistently over the coming days? And the answer to that is no. Over the last 3 model runs, and with multi-model support here, so I'm talking the GFS and the European model, we see that week 2 kind of favors a quarter in through here of wetter conditions. You can see that in both models. We also see consistently in both models keeping the cyclone track here off the coast and drier conditions along the Gulf Coast, even though we will be seeing daily convective activity overall. So what is it about week 2 that's giving us this? Well, to answer that question, I got to take you up in the atmosphere. We're going to watch first the flow around the upper level ridge to see where we're going to be getting our ridge riding thunderstorms. We're going to pay close attention to the Canadian storm track and just understand that we have 4 of our major indices that watch for these global pressure patterns, suggesting that we're going to be seeing more eastern North American troughing as we progress through the pattern. So what am I talking about? Let's pause this right about here. I'm getting you out into the weekend, and I want you to watch as I animate this forward just through the weekend, that we end up getting a high over low pattern here in the Gulf of Alaska. That's a stagnating pattern. We do have one trough that sweeps through. This will be one that will be initiating a storm system early next week that sweeps over into the eastern part of North America. Meanwhile, the broader ridge sits right in through here. Now we notice that through the next few days, that right here along this 588 line, which runs right in through here, this is where the best chances of our ridge riding storms bringing in the moisture is in this region. Again, the second player is the weak fronts that will drape to the south of the low pressure systems forming on this trough moving in this direction. So this is now getting you out to Sunday. Let's take you into Monday and Tuesday. It'll be at this point that we're going to be watching 2 things. On the leading edge of this trough, low pressure system will be moving out of Manitoba into Ontario and over toward Quebec. And as it does, there will be a weak boundary that stretches in through here, finally bringing our next chance of rainfall through parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, right in through here, a region that is forecast over the next 5 days to be dry. And as that moves through, bringing in a chance of rain, it also brings in some slightly cooler than average temperatures while the broader ridge hangs out in the western part of, or west central part of the United States. Still, we're going to see after this, the Canadian storm track continue to set up, and again, our 588 line coming right in through this region, this is where we're going to expect to see our best upper level support for more showers and thunderstorms. It'll be, again, the combination of the flow around the ridge and the Canadian storm track draping fronts across the midsection of the United States where we're going to be seeing our best chances of rainfall. So let's look at some of the details here. I'm going to play this out for you. This is looking at our NAM model over the next 60 hours. So this takes us through Friday midday right here, getting into Friday evening, and then Saturday morning. And you notice there's this corridor right in through this area that is just, well, going to get hammered with a lot of precipitation. To start things off, we're going to be watching much of the north central plains getting back over to Montana for some widely scattered showers and storms. Some of those storms could be severe. And just repeated chances over here in the southeast for just a lot of tropical thunderstorm type activity. Take those drawings off and watch it again. So this is Thursday and midday, Thursday evening, night, Friday morning, afternoon. That's playing pretty fast, but that is what we're expecting to see here. So watch it again. You can see the flow around the upper level ridge out west, sending those ridge riding thunderstorms here on Thursday afternoon and evening, getting into the overnight hours Friday morning now, Friday afternoon and evening. So this is how the systems are progressing here in the near term. You notice that there is a section of the country here that is largely void of precipitation, right where we do need it pretty desperately. And if I take this off again, watch one more time here to see where these showers and thunderstorms are setting up here in the near term. All right, let's now go beyond this. We're going to go to our European model. Go ahead and get this started and pause it right there. We've taken you out to Saturday morning already. Now what we're going to be watching beyond this wide area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms is primarily from the first tropical system coming up here, plus there's a weak frontal boundary still draped into this area. Meanwhile, remember, our shower and thunderstorm activity coming over the ridge is running right in through here early Saturday morning. The next feature to watch is moving through the Canadian prairies. And right now it's a low pressure system heading toward the Hudson Bay. And as it does so, look at this. Here's the moisture axis for the southwestern monsoon. Here's the widely scattered showers and storms on the heat of the day on Sunday evening, combined with the tropical feature coming up here and the draping front. Our next front is sitting right in through here on Sunday evening, and then through the day on Monday, right here, it's going to be moving through the north central plains, moving through Minnesota, Wisconsin, over toward Michigan, such that by Tuesday morning, it's now bringing widely scattered showers and storms in through this area. For some folks in through here, this will be the first time it rains looking back over the last week and a half. And it comes through by the time we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday morning and just slowly drapes in this area. Now, in an ideal world, it is slow and there's consistent showers and thunderstorms on this boundary because that's what we need this time of year. We need slow, steady rain. So we're hoping that this front is able to provide it. But it looks as though by the time we get out to next Wednesday into Thursday, that drapes farther toward the south, toward the mid-south here, and our next low pressure system's moving here through the Canadian prairies over toward Ontario and the Hudson Bay. And that's where the next front, see it right into there, drapes across. Now these are not bringing in big shots of cold air. These are weak fronts and they tend to move slowly, and we watch for showers and storms to sit upon them. So the first one is here, the one following it is right in through here, and look, the southwestern monsoon is still going. So now I got you all that to next Friday. Once we get beyond that, this is where the broader ridge is forecast to flatten out, and the flow around it will be right in through here. So we're going to watch again this quarter for getting more heavy rain as we progress here into the 10th, 11th, and 12th of the month of August. Now, low predictability for week 2, but we have seen some consistent model runs taking us out that far with where we're expecting to see some of that rainfall. Okay, so that's the best analysis I can give you, and I'm just going to tell you, live with me when it comes to the precipitation just in the next 3 to 5 days, where our higher resolution models can add to the global models like the GFS and the ECMWF. We're going to look for those ensemble probabilities to understand week 2 precipitation patterns. And again, that Canadian storm track and the weak fronts it drapes will be the main characters of next week's rainfall. Okay, let's talk about temperatures. Over the next 5 days, as we're looking at over here on the left, we do see this corridor showing up cooler than average, and of course that's due to a lot of cloud cover, showers, and storms. Very warm here and warmer than average, stretching all the way around it, getting up the west coast into the Canadian prairies. Where the storms do come on here, cooler than average bias. Over on the next image over here on the right, this is days 5 through 10. We will be seeing some surges of heat up here in parts of the Pacific Northwest around days 7, 8, 9, and then in general we're keeping this quarter in through here warmer than average. But for the most part, the eastern half of the country sees very normal temperatures with maybe a slight warm bias at times. But getting out into the longer term here, days 10 through 15, so this takes us all the way up to August 16th. At this particular point is when we see the broader trough feature stretching out into this area. So across the U.S., it's only down here in the southeast and the south central part of the U.S. where we're expecting to keep our much above average temperatures as we progress here into the middle part of the month. Pretty consistent picture painted by both the European and the GFS model with that. Now, outside of this, some of the things I'm watching, we do have 3 areas of tropical cyclone development that are forecast here in the next 10 days by the European model. My concern is, as they come together, they could eventually get absorbed into the upper level flow. And this is a wild card because as these systems recurve to the north and get absorbed into the jet stream here across the Pacific, they can cause major changes in our flow pattern. So we're going to watch them carefully. We don't have much details about them now. This would be an effect that we would see toward the end of August. Okay, this isn't something immediate that's going to happen, but we'll keep a close eye on it. Elsewhere around the world, Europe, you can't seem to be able to shake this pattern of this broader trough sitting here just to the west of the British Isles and this deeper trough sitting here over parts of Western Russia. This was the flow pattern that's brought in heat at times into parts of France, Germany, Spain, Poland, and even Italy. And it's forecast again to be set up quite like that, but nowhere near the extreme heat that we saw. Look in the upper right. We can see the warmer than average conditions into this corridor, much cooler than average here in parts of the Russian wheat belt and parts of Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Turkey, that particular region. The storm track is also set up where with each one of these troughs we get kind of these regions of heavier rainfall. And you can see I kind of outlined them there with arrows. So that's what Europe's looking like over the next 10 days or so. Can't seem to be able to shake this pattern of much cooler than average weather here in the western part of Russia. Meanwhile, eastern Russia, Siberia, is baking and they have a lot of forest fire activity in that region. Finally, just to kind of clue you in on what's going on in Asia, we've talked a lot in the last video about the Indian monsoon, next big pulse of moisture here. I am concerned about some tropical development in through this area, bringing incredibly heavy rainfall into Bangladesh, Myanmar, and places down there in southeastern Asia. But let's focus on this region. So this is primarily where we grow a lot of corn, soybeans, and other crops here in China. And what we've seen here for the corn growing region is that over the last about 15 to 20 days, they've been much above average on temperatures, and they've also at times been relatively dry. That's relative. What you're going to notice here is that over the next 15 days, the European model on the left showing the wetter than average conditions. The GFS is shown in graphical form down here. This would be normal rate of accumulation of precipitation. Much of the GFS ensemble keeping things wetter than average. So that's what's going on right now in parts of where we grow a lot of corn and soybeans in China, progressing forward in the forecast. So wetter, still staying on their warmer bias as well. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video right here. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next ag forecast coming out at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.